This is the plaintiff, Mary Ann. She says she rented an apartment to the defendant's nephew, who is blind. The defendant still owes her for unpaid rent, and she's tired of chasing her down for it. She has no other choice but to sue for the $700 she's owed, and since she wants her money, court seems to be the only way she has any chance of forcing her to pay up. This is the defendant, Sandra Foster. She says she has no idea why the plaintiff is suing her in the first place, because she has nothing to do with paying rent. This woman's trying to take advantage of people with disabilities. It's not right, and she thinks the judge is going to agree. She's accused of running out on rent responsibilities.
All parties, please raise your right hands. Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff rented to the defendant's blind nephew and says that the defendant won't pay the rent. Now, the defendant is saying this is simply a case of a landlord taking advantage of a disabled person. It's the case of running out on the rent.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Okay, Mary Ann, you rented a room out to Christopher Phillip, correct?
Yes.
And how long was he living with you? I know he lived with you, then he left, and he's come back since then. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. How long did he live with you the first time?
From October, November, and December.
Okay. And he was happy there?
He was.
And he was paying $700 a month?
He was supposed to be paying $700. I got $700 one time. All the rest of the time, somebody else was taking part of the money, almost $200 of it.
Okay, but apparently at some point you've been compensated for all months except for what? What are you suing for today?
I'm suing for the $700 for December rent for 2019.
Because according to you, he didn't pay anything in December?
I didn't get anything in December. Foster sent me a $300 money order after I filed my papers.
Oh, okay. But you cashed that, right?
I did.
Okay, I got it. You say that's for December. Well, let's go. Hold on one second for me. Let's put a pin in that for a moment. Ms. Foster, you recently became the representative for Mr. Phillip, correct?
Yes.
Why? What happened that caused a change in representative?
The person that he was living with, he was no longer staying there because he had been abusing alcohol because he'd been depressed for being blind, and then he ended up in the hospital. I visited him.
Right, but he is your sister. Hold on one second. He's your sister's son, right? He's your nephew.
Yes.
And your sister had as his representative an ex-boyfriend of hers, correct?
Yes.
Who cashed the check and then kept the money and didn't pay his rent, correct?
Yes.
All right, so you get wind of that and then you become his representative, which means that the checks come to you and care of him, but you're the one who has the authority to cash them and pay his bills, correct?
Yes.
All right, so now when you do that, at some point you decide that living at Mary Ann's is not good for him?
No, that's not what happened. What happened was...
So why did Christopher move out on January 11th? From Mary Ann's?
He had moved out with Mary Ann because Mary Ann had said that something was going on between him and one of her tenants, somebody else that she had living there. And she wrote a letter asking that he move out. And she gave me even a time. She gave me 30 days to get him out of her house.
When did she give you the 30 days?
On January, I received the letter January the 7th, I got the letter.
Okay, tell me about that, Mary Ann. Did you ask him to leave?
I did not ask him to leave. Matter of fact, he loved it living here. But with Miss Foster, she constantly wants to move this boy somewhere, New York to a
Did you ask Christopher to move? Yes or no? She says she has a letter from you. Saying that he needs...
because she told him that he was paying too much money. He was happy paying the $700.
Ms. Foster, let me ask you a question. I'm looking at the answer to your complaint, and in the answer to her complaint, you say, January 3rd, 2020, the co-defendant Christopher notified the plaintiff that he would be moving because I was trying to get him into a better living situation. So you didn't like the living situation he was living in at Mary Ann's. Tell me what you didn't like about it.
Well, he wasn't happy like she said he was. And he was there all the time, most of the time by himself, or with somebody that else was there living, taking care of him. And that's when there became a situation between him and this young lady. And after that, that's when she had called me and asked me that he had to leave and gave me a 30-day notice saying this.
Can I see the
And
30-day notice? Do you have it in your hands, the 30-day notice?
yes, it's right here.
Hold it up to the camera a little closer. Oh, that's Christopher giving her 30 days notice, darling.
And I'm saying Marianne because Christopher cannot write. He's blind, and he didn't do this letter. She made this letter on her computer. And she...
All right, look, be that as it may, you know, when I read in your answer to the complaint that you say that you didn't like the living situation there, either way, whoever gave whomever notice, he was living there in January until what day?
I picked him up January 11th from there.
Okay, so you ended up sending her, once you straightened out the mess, God bless you, because, you know, you straightened out the mess with the ex-boyfriend, you got the money back. Did he have to pay it back to Social Security or no?
Yes, he does. He still has to pay back.
Good, I hope he got arrested, which is what should happen.
Welcome back to the People's Court. The plaintiff is saying the defendant is simply refusing to own up to her responsibility to pay rent for her blind nephew. The defendant saying the landlord is taking advantage of someone with a disability. Let's go back into the courtroom.
What I would like to understand is, at some point you send her $700, which according to you covers December, and then you send her $300, which is supposed to cover the days he was there in January, correct?
Right, yes.
No.
Right, but here's the thing. If you're there, I don't care if it's December or January. Just wait a second. You're calling the $700 for December. It really doesn't matter, because a landlord, if you live there part of the month, is entitled to the entire month. You can't. It's not a hotel. Like, you can't just say, well, you know, I decided to leave on the 12th instead of the 30th, so now I'm only going to pay you up until the 12th. That's not how it works. You have to pay all of the rent. That's the law. Okay, even on a month-to-month, that's the law. So you cash the $300 check, correct, Marianne?
Yes.
So what you're missing is another $400 for you to be complete on rent, correct?
Right.
Okay, when I say you, I don't mean you personally, Ms. Foster, and I realize you got personally sued here. So this is not, the case against you personally is dismissed. You are being sued, or it's converted to a case against you as representative, because that's more consistent with what the facts are here. So the case against Christopher, who you're representing here today, and you as representative of Christopher, not personally, is righteous, and you guys have to pay him the other $400 to complete the rent. Now, I'm kind of curious, where is he living now? A third party, another place? Are you happy with the place where he's living now?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am happy.
Okay, all's well that ends well. I'm finding in favor of the plaintiff in this case for the remaining $400 because it was an inaccurate legal assumption on your part to think that he only had to pay for the days he was there. Once you log day 1 of the month, you owe the landlord the rest of the month. Why? Because they can't rent it out to anybody else when you leave like that. Okay? So verdict for the plaintiff in the amount of $400.
So in a relatively simple case here in the People's Court, the plaintiff prevails. She's going to get $400, not $700. Ms. Foster, let me ask you, you're the defendant in this case. Do you understand the judge's verdict? What do you think?
Yes, I understand. I agree with the verdict.
You agree with the verdict? You're all right.
Yes, I
Okay,
am.
well, all's well that ends well, and you will pay that. Marianne, let me ask you a quick question. You had to go to court now for this to file and everything. Are you satisfied with the judge's decision? I mean, you're going to be made whole, right?
Yes, I am very satisfied.
So you're a happy camper. Well, thank you very much. Well, let us take time now to join Judge Millian and her husband, who is a judge, Judge John, for another session of After the Verdict.
Marilyn, in this case, unfortunately, it looks like the landlord got shorted by about $400. Was it the $400 from December or was it from January?
It really doesn't matter which way you count it. For some reason, the two of them got bogged down in trying to count it for December or for January because they thought, I guess the plaintiff felt, oh, it would be worse for me because I only lived there part of the month in January. So the $700 that she got, I'm applying that to January. It truly doesn't matter. The bottom line is she's entitled to $700 every month that he lived there, and whether that $300 check got applied to one or the other, it all comes out in the wash, and it's still the same thing. She was shorted $400, and she gets the $400.
And clearly, when you rent a place for a month, you're on the hook for the whole month. You can't say, hey, I'm going to bail after week
because
one.
think about the position that puts a landlord in. They don't have time to then re-advertise it and get somebody and not have a gap. It's not a hotel.
Right.
It's not a hotel.
You can't run an apartment like that or a building like that if you can't count on the rent for the month.
Right. Right.
There you have it.
Brooke, I got to tell you, unless your city now has a policy where they have to wear masks, I mean, what I would simply do is this. They're jerks for not wearing one in an elevator where you want to go in. Just take another elevator. Just wait. It's safer. It's better.